So what is a journalist to do in this age of uncertainty? First, we must believe in ourselves. Technological advances confer on citizens an important role. But if you believe that journalism is a profession, not one where you need a journalism school degree, but one where training and experience is vital to gathering news, to exploring more than one side, to sifting through often contradictory statements and facts, to determining what belongs on page one and what does not, to winning reader or viewer or listener's trust because you and your news organization are transparent, then you believe that an untrained citizen should not be granted the badge of a journalist. We are supposed to be intelligent agents. Despite its value, WikiLeaks is not journalism. Journalists sort out the important from the unimportant, fret about fairness and multiple sources. We don't print material that it could endanger people's lives. We don't just throw stuff at the wall and leave it to citizens to scrape off. If we believe in ourselves, we provide citizens with what we think they need to function as free citizens. We journalists face undeniable economic challenges. These are usually above our pay grade to fix. But there are things within our power to change. We need to encourage our news organizations to stay awake to the digital challenge. We need to recognize that one way to get the better of commodity news is to be distinctive. Without sacrificing facts or sensationalizing, journalists have to be better storytellers. Journalists also need to recognize that the digital revolution requires them to be adept not just as storytellers, but to master multimedia. You don't just file for your publication. We must record a video, blog, post on Facebook or Twitter. Journalists also need a quality often devalued in an age when cable news and bloggers push for more opinion, more attitude. And that quality is humility. You can't be a good reporter unless you ask questions. We are supposed to genuinely listen to the answers because we assume we don't know the answers. Asking questions requires humility. There's another citizen role, and the International Center for Journalists plays it by having professional journalists mentor aspiring journalists all over the world. Mentoring is important, but so is sponsorship. And by that I mean citizens, maybe a publisher, maybe an owner, maybe a producer or editor or just a reporter, who takes the young journalist under his or her wing, who is engaged in advancing their career, not just honing their skills. Notice, if you will, how the outgoing CEO of IBM last week chose his successor, a woman. He didn't just mentor her with private talks. He sponsored her, making sure she moved into management positions that would test her, inviting her to speak at corporate functions, asking a longtime female CEO of another company to coach her and meet with her regularly. I often liken what we do as journalists to visiting other planets, where we're exposed to different languages and cultures. Recently, I spent nearly 3 years reporting a book from planet Google. I tried to understand how a disruptive digital company and its engineers thought. And I also tried to parse how traditional media responded to the digital wave that a company like Google was creating. I won't bore you with the many lessons I gleaned, but I will share one major takeaway. I came to think there are two types of people, those who lean back and those who lean forward. Those who lean back, as too many who work in traditional media did, tend to blame companies like Google for ruining their business. Burdened by the onslaught of digital challenges, they froze, slipped into pessimism, viewed challenges as problems. They tried to ignore the digital wave until it crashed into them. By contrast, the person who leans forward tends to be, as Christiane said she was, an optimist. They view challenges as opportunities. There are reasons many other parts of the world think they can lean back and ignore the digital wave. In Afghanistan, where I reported a media story last year, the new media is really old media, radio and television. With scarce electricity and 80% illiteracy, neither online news nor newspapers attract an audience. By contrast, outside of the United States and even in parts of Western Europe, newspaper readership grows. But those who lean back and ignore the rising digital wave will soon collide into it. In Africa, where I reported a media story earlier this year, inexpensive mobile phones, as we saw earlier this evening, have diminished old media, becoming a medium for news and even for textbooks. It is as certain as a sunrise that the audience and advertising for newspapers and magazines, for television and radio network and stations will decline as technology grants citizens more news and more information choices. This may not occur next year or the year after, but it will, and we need prepare. I can stand before you this evening and lean back, offering multiple reasons to be pessimistic. I can total up the media companies that have and probably will go bust. I can count the disappearing journalistic jobs, the tidal wave of superficial gossip, and how the digital world's ability to measure what our readers or viewers like will compel editors to clamor for more fluff. I'd rather stand here before you and lean forward. Attending a dinner like this, how could you not be optimistic when you see journalists who believe that what they do is a mission, who risk their lives and livelihoods to report? How can we not be awed by an honoree who spent 10 years explaining how and why genocide engulfed Cambodia? Tonight's honorees, like many of the journalists in this hall, understand that readers and viewers need them as intelligent agents to report on the real world, not the make-believe world of press releases and spin. We need believe the public will pay for the content we produce. We should celebrate that the New York Times, Michael Golden's New York Times, which spends an astonishing $7 million a year to cover wars in 2 countries, Afghanistan and Iraq. The Times this past spring put up a paywall, and already 325,000, the Times wishes, people are paying for that digital edition. Finally, let me end where I began, with Andy Grove. 3 years ago, or 3 years after we spoke in Dallas at the newspaper conference, I interviewed Grove at the World Economic Forum in Davos. I recited for him what he had said in Dallas, and I asked him, "Mr. Grove, do you still believe what you said then?" And what he said was this: "No, I was totally wrong." I didn't understand the importance, he said, of serendipity. How would I have learned about the atrocities of Rwanda or the former Yugoslavia? I needed an intelligent agent to keep me informed about news I could not anticipate. And I needed an intelligent agent because there's a blizzard of too much information on the internet. And I need them, editors, to sort out what is and what is not important. That's about as optimistic a statement for our role as I can end with. Thank you.